Welcome to Jumpsuiters, a podcast where we explore higher dimensional topics in a practical 3D reality sort of way. Today we're jumping into the most important topic in the world. You. Who are you? What is self? And how can you ever express it authentically if you're still trying to find it? Before we begin, I've got to say that I'm on this journey myself. I didn't grow up in a household that encouraged me to explore my deep inner emotional landscape. I was often left alone to manage my emotions, and eventually I found myself in bed with a religious system that discouraged me from exploring other perspectives and forming my own beliefs. So the safest way that I found to explore my authenticity was through personality assessments. They provided a structure that I needed to better understand who I am and why I feel so different, and how I'm different from others. And other systems like religion made it easier to understand things like why I am. So these personality frameworks like the Enneagram or the MBTI felt like it unlocked me. Oh my God, that's so me. And oh my God, that's so you. And it was fun. It was a helpful journey, and I totally recommend it. Having a framework for why you are the way you are and how that's different from others is an essential part of the individuation process. But the problem remains an existential one. How can a test really tell us who we are? And when we agree with it and check the box of knowing ourselves, we become fixed, stuck, stagnant. This happens with other frameworks and systems too, like astrology. Sorry, I'm just an Aries. Or human design. Well, you're the manifester. It's like once we find a box that we fit into, we don't want to leave it. And we get really uncomfortable when others try to leave it, which makes us all become stuck. So this episode is going to feel extremely nonlinear because my path of exploring myself has felt that way. And my hope is to highlight my journey through these various systems to pull the best parts from them, the inherent wisdom that they may have, while encouraging us all to grow beyond them. What would it look like to evolve, change, grow beyond these boxes like wild vines escaping their container, growing bigger, greener towards the sun? I suspect a lot of our suffering comes from denying an inner authentic cry to not be contained, yet we continue to go on as if nothing has or needs to change. Stuckness in an identity comes in many other forms too. Another way we get stuck is in valuing other people's perceptions of us over ourselves. The truth is, there's not a single person in the entire world that sees you the way that you see you. And no two people will ever experience you or perceive you as the same. So if perception is reality, who even are you? Are you loved? Or are you hated? Are you desired? Or are you discarded? We can't forget how someone sees us tells us more about them than it does ourselves. It's not that these mirrors can't help at all. They do. But they're not it. They're not the thing. They're not the objective truth. And they never will be. The journey of discovering you is a deeply independent one, and it requires going inside. And if you've been like me, you've spent most of your life looking externally. Who do others say I am? How can the frameworks and systems make sense of me? Like, there's a real legitimate overlap in the energies of being an Aries, Enneagram 8, ENTJ, generator. There's some truth there, but they've caused me from going deep inside. And there's no way to show up in the world with authenticity until we do that. Until we're brave enough to explore what's inside, we can never be brave enough for our outside to match it. So practically, where do we start? I suggest with a question. What does the authentic experience of being you feel like right now? This is where I find somatic experiencing to be an extremely helpful practice. It invites us to go inside, to grow beyond the identification of the mind, and instead focus the attention on what's happening inside of the body. So for example, right now, this is what it feels like authentically to be me. This is actually really hard with... Okay, let me do this. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing my attention to the physical sensations in my body and any emotions that I may be experiencing, or any thoughts that pop up in my mind. And I'm simply observing them and revealing my experience of them to you. Right now, I feel a ton of energy kind of flowing throughout my entire body. I feel it more prominently in my limbs. And I feel a lot of spaciousness here in my chest. I feel the emotion of joy. It feels really, it makes me happy to feel like I'm being witnessed right now. And I feel a little nervous to be saying that out loud. I can tell that because I start to kind of feel more energy in my hands. And now I have a thought popping up in my head, a part that's like curious if I'm taking too long. Another part that's wondering if this is weird. And I can sit here and I can continue to do this for a while. And what I would observe is that things change. What I'm experiencing right now will not be likely what I'm experiencing 30 seconds from now. This is an important practice because it becomes really easy to identify with what's happening inside of here, just to latch onto one thing and it be so loud and so dominant that we mistakenly think that that's what we are, who we are, what we want, what we believe, when reality, the thoughts and these sensations just kind of like come and go. And so being able to tune in to yourself is an important practice because it then allows us to practice revealing our experience. And the more that we can reveal our experience, the more authentic we become. The more that we can tune in with what's happening inside when someone else is revealing their experience, right? We live life surrounded by people who impact us. So to go inside and feel into what that person's energy is causing inside of us allows us to practice authenticity. That's an example of a somatic experiencing practice, and integrated into that was parts work, internal family systems, if you've ever heard of that. And as I begin observing what's happening somatically and what kind of parts are popping up and communicating with me, needing different things, contradicting one another even, I become aware that there's this like higher level of self actually observing all of this happening. And so then the question is, who is the observer then? I've been practicing this in a group called Authentic Relating, and it's a practice that helps you get present with yourself, learn to attune to what you're experiencing, and then feel safety to reveal it to others and safety to be impacted by other people in the group's reveals. It's a way to unlearn unconscious patterns of projecting onto others, using coping mechanisms like sarcasm or fawning to connect with other people. And it's been a pretty incredible experience. I'm learning a lot about myself, how to show up authentically, especially in a group. And I'm learning that there's a lot of conditioning the world puts on us that causes us not to be authentic. Maybe we didn't grow up in a home where it felt safe to. Maybe we grew up in a religious environment that required us to die to ourselves and believe that our personal wants and needs are sinful and even against God's will. Maybe even relationships in our life punished us for sharing our truths or rewarded us for putting other people's truths first. Over time, it gets tangled. Knowing who we are and what it is that we really believe or feel or want, it gets confusing and then begins to feel out of reach. And it's no wonder that frameworks and other people's experience of us feels like something that we need, something concrete outside of ourselves that we can point to and say, yeah, that. There's another pattern that I also see begins to emerge as people begin awakening. This process can start from a variety of places, like a death, a divorce, a health scare, a psychedelic journey, even starting therapy. I find we begin in the mind, wanting to deeply understand, why did this happen? What did this mean? Who am I because of it? Why am I here? But the mind can only take us so far. A hard truth for me to reckon with, because I love my mind and I enjoy pushing it to the edges, and I've over-identified with it. And as I've used psychedelics to explore my subconscious, an interesting thing happened. The experience of the ego temporarily dissolving. And then I begin to see that this part of me has shaped my entire reality. It's literally created my sense of individuality. Nicole, the entrepreneur, the one with the painful past who worked really hard to transmute it. The leader, the lover, the challenger, all of these things begin to fade in that state. And then I realize that the self I'm trying to actualize might be an illusion. My therapist told me a helpful story once. It was scary to my ego, but liberating to my soul. And she said, once upon a time, there was a little wave riding next to a big wave. And the little wave was having so much fun, and it was looking ahead. And as it observed the shore, it saw other waves crashing up against it. And it immediately knew its fate. It started to panic, and it turned to the big wave, and it said, oh my God, we're gonna crash. What are we gonna do? We're going to die. And then the big wave turned to the little wave and said, "Aw, you forgot that you were the ocean." Not a comforting story to the ego, who has identified with its form, and yet all the comfort in the universe to the one who knows that they are the universe. And I think life is about forgetting and falling asleep and then waking up and remembering who we are again. And the more we can remember, the less we feel the need to perform or achieve or worry about the future. The less we play a song to finish it, and the more we play it to become it. So are you the wave, or are you the ocean? Yes, you're all of it. And perhaps in the moments you're aware that you're a wave, the ride can become a little more fun when you ride the wave consciously. And when you crash and die over and over again, as you will, you can integrate those breaks and evolve and always keep moving as water does. And now you understand why it's so hard to answer the question, who am I? Because it's both incredibly simple and deeply nuanced. You are the wave and the ocean. You are a unique expression of consciousness for a moment in time, having its own experience. The fact that you're here and you exist means that exploring the depths of yourself and authentically expressing every facet of it is the most meaningful, sacred thing that you could possibly do. And only you can do it. And how do you do it, though, without getting lost in it? Without getting so over-identified with form that you forget who you really are, and also who everyone else really is. That is the art, the dance, the invitation. Be a wave with me. Let's play, let's break, let's get big, let's crash into foam. Let's leave the ocean all together and join hands in the sky and fall backwards and downwards as rain. Let's be in a cup, in a body, in a puddle. Let's not be an element at all. Let's find ourselves again beyond form. I'll leave you with this. Maybe the authentic self is an ever-evolving reality, an attempt to capture the truth of the moment with the courage to bear witness of it. This podcast episode was sponsored by Jumpsuit, a creative agency powered by the Independent Network. For content or conversations like this, please join our Patreon as we continue to jump into all sorts of existential shit. Patreon.com/Jumpsuiters.